Okay, let's dive right in. If you're feeling completely overwhelmed by the endless pressures of modern life, trust me, you are definitely not alone. We spend so much of our time just stuck in this exhausting loop, you know? We're learning just to pass exams, striving to impress daunting people, and endlessly seeking status. It is incredibly draining. But what if there was an entirely different kind of education out there? One that isn't about acing a test, but is actually designed to strengthen us for the difficulties of daily life. An education to make us feel a little less sad and a little less alone. Well, that is exactly what this explainer is all about.
And that brings us to a really fascinating premise. Today we're looking at pre-modern, classical Chinese culture, specifically its painting, its poetry, ceramics, and philosophy. But, and this is key, we aren't looking at these for academic knowledge. Instead, we're going to use them as a direct form of therapy. Despite the barriers of time and language, this ancient wisdom offers a literal prescription to heal our modern selves and illuminate some of those neglected but super important corners of our own identities.
To get there, we're following a clear 5-part therapeutic prescription. We'll start with the comfort of smallness, move on to embracing melancholy, explore emotional open-heartedness, find simple satisfactions, and finally look at cultivating calm. All right, step 1, the comfort of being small. Let's start by looking outward at how classical Chinese artists viewed humanity's place in the vast universe. There is a massive contrast here. Think about our modern ego. We loom so large in our own imaginations day to day, obsessing over fame, personal achievements, our ego-driven plans. But then, look at the classical Chinese perspective. They painted these vast landscapes of gigantic mountains, sweeping rivers, and dense forests. And in their art, human beings are infinitesimal. You literally have to squint to find the tiny human figures hidden against the majestic, completely indifferent scale of nature. They had this beautiful way of summing it up, saying we are as earthworms or twigs next to the mighty southern mountains. Now, I know what you're thinking. Portraying humans as tiny and insignificant sounds a bit depressing, right? But actually, it's a route to salvation. When we realize just how little we matter to this incomprehensible ancient universe, our ego gets returned to a manageable dimension. It completely relieves the pressure of all our illusory ambitions. I mean, does it really matter who is celebrated and who is disgraced when we view ourselves from that kind of majestic scale?
Moving on to step 2, embracing melancholy.
So, moving inward to our own feelings, a really crucial point is how we handle sadness. In our modern society, there is this toxic demand for constant positivity. We're essentially told to hide our sadness, force a smile when we'd really rather cry, and just aggressively repudiate our grief. But classical China? They took the exact opposite approach. A redeeming air of melancholy completely suffuses their culture. Drawing from Buddhist and Taoist perspectives, their sages understood that life is inherently serious. They just accepted that the gap between our aspirations and our reality will always be vast. Our bodies decay and we lose the people we love. That's just a fact.
Just take a second to let this quote breathe. It's from the poet Wang Wei, from a piece titled Lamenting White Hairs. He writes, "Once a child's face, now an old man's white hairs. How much can hurt the heart in one lifespan?" Far from bringing us down, this kind of shared melancholy actually helps us. When we openly acknowledge that this universal sadness is just the way existence works, we suddenly feel a whole lot less alone. We realize we haven't been handed some uniquely cruel fate, and the universe isn't out to get us.
Here is another incredibly beautiful reflection, this time from Sushi. Looking up at the silent Milky Way and the sunset clouds, he writes, "The goodness of this life and of this night will not last for long. Next year, where will I watch the bright moon?" You know, the favorite seasons for these sages were autumn and winter, the times that remind us of nature's life cycles. Leaning into those cycles and acknowledging the inevitability of death and change is so much healthier than constantly trying to fight it. Now for step 3, emotional open-heartedness. We've talked a bit about melancholy, but how do they actually express it in their daily lives? Well, we usually assume that older societies maintain this stiff, military upper lip, right? That they didn't cry over small things and were just much tougher than we are today. But classical Chinese figures possess the courage of childlike honesty. They spoke with intense emotional vulnerability about exactly what made them cry. And by doing that, they proved that this kind of open-hearted vulnerability is a profound strength, not a weakness. A perfect example of this comes from Wang Wei again, writing way back in the 8th century AD. He tells this vivid story with entirely modern, clear-eyed sensitivity. He's watching a young man leaving his aging parents on a green-willowed road. The son has to go to a far-off province to study so the family can survive, but his leaving revives their deep grief. Watching the dust kick up from the carriage, Wang Wei remembers his own past goodbyes, and he writes, "When I see this, my handkerchief is wet with tears." Think about that for a second. An 8th century master openly weeping and writing about it. It completely gives us permission to feel our own emotions just as deeply.
Which brings us to step 4, satisfaction in simple things.
So, in a world of intense emotions and vast, indifferent universes, how do we actually ground ourselves day to day? The classical Chinese lived in a highly unpredictable world.
Court politics were treacherous, business was risky, and huge reversals of fortune were incredibly common. Sounds kind of familiar, right? To cope with this, they actively celebrated the materially bare life. They found immense satisfaction on a modest salary, living in uncostly small huts out in nature. In fact, if you fell out of favor in the capital and got exiled to a remote province, it wasn't always seen as a punishment. It was often reframed as a liberation, a chance to quiet your worries and embrace simplicity, far away from the toxic rat race.
Instead of obsessing over status, they deliberately focused their attention on finding deep joy in simple, everyday elements of nature: birds, rabbits, bamboo forests, flowers, the moon. To show you just how seriously this was taken, the 12th century Emperor Huizong, literally one of the most powerful men in the world at the time, gained relief from the overwhelming stress of ruling simply by going into his palace garden and painting vast numbers of finches.
They even invented specific anxiety-reducing rituals to force themselves to slow down. Take the moon-gazing ritual. That's exactly what it sounds like. You just sit on a veranda, maybe invite a friend over, and you contemplate the moon for hours at a time. Or you might just sit and watch the ebb and flow of the tides. These practices were literally designed to quiet the mind's endless worries and force you to appreciate the present moment.
Finally, step 5, cultivating calm through pure emptiness. To find ultimate rest, we have to engage our senses directly. Now, it's really important to remember that classical Chinese history was not always peaceful. It was filled with turbulence, civil wars, and invaders. Their daily reality was a lot like our modern, chaotic 24/7 news cycle. And in response to all this turmoil, they developed a cult of calm. This was a deep, almost desperate longing for emptiness, purity, and rest, basically everything that their chaotic daily lives lacked. And they sought this calm out deliberately in their art.
Nowhere is this more obvious than in their ceramics. The master ceramicists of China were absolutely capable of creating noisy art, those highly decorated loud pieces covered in intricate dragons and phoenixes. And they did make those for specific occasions, but what they truly loved and what they valued for their own mental peace was pure art. Exquisitely pure, empty pieces of pottery intentionally designed to offer the viewer a place of visual rest.
They designed these empty ceramics so that the viewer could look at them and mentally bathe in expanses of soothing colors. I want you to try visualizing this right now. Imagine just letting your eyes rest on an expanse of milky green, a cool bluey silver, or a really soft, playful yellow. By engaging with these pure, empty physical objects, they could effectively attenuate their own sorrows, quiet their confusion, and ease their anxiety. It was a tangible, sensory tool for mental health.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from all of this. We suffer today with the exact same feelings of exhaustion, ego pressure, and sorrow as the classical Chinese did centuries ago. Their ingenuity, and quite frankly their kindness in addressing the human condition, are just as relevant now as they were back then. So, as you step away from this explainer and back into the hectic modern world, I want to leave you with this question. How will you use an 8th century remedy to heal your 21st century anxiety today? Will you look up at the vast sky to remember your smallness? Will you embrace a moment of melancholy? Or perhaps you'll just sit quietly and watch the moon. Oh, and by the way, if you would like to explore any of these concepts further, I can easily create flashcards to help you memorize these 5 ideas, a tailored report that expands on the philosophy, or even a quick quiz to test your understanding. Just let me know if you'd like me to create any of those for you.